commend you. I think your setup and your approach to the instrument is really beautiful. I mean, you stand up straight, you look the part, you sound the part. That's half the battle, I can't even tell you. So that's really great. I mean, as far as your bow hand, everything looks beautiful. The biggest thing that I was mostly missing was a sense of lyricism throughout the movement. So one thing I like to teach my students, especially with Bach, you have to create everything, right? Because it's monophonic, right? Meaning there's one voice. So you have to be the bass, the rhythm, the everything. So the idea is to try to kind of create a roadmap of like goal points. So for example, I always have my students first mark where they think the lowest point of the movement is and where they think the highest point of the movement. So why don't you take a moment and tell me now, where do you think is the apex and where do you think is like the bottom point?
I think the apex is probably like halfway through the second page.
Right, exactly, which I heard very clearly. Now where do you think is the bottom point of the movement?
I'd say maybe a little bit less than halfway through.
So the F major section, right? Da, da, dee. Right, that one I could have used a little bit of that being more clearly told to me. I couldn't really tell. I felt like a lot of it was kind of mezzo in the middle without kind of clear direction. So for example, at the very opening, even just that could have had a little bit more of like an arc feel. So that's something I would work on as you go forward in your playing, is you have a lot of beautiful things happening. The second thing was I felt like the bowings dictated the music more than the opposite. So I know you're doing a lot of separate bows. So a couple times, and I don't remember what your bowing was. There were a couple times where the bowing didn't quite line up where I thought musically the phrase should be. So rather than being kind of strict with the bowing, try to see, no matter what bowing you do, you always want to make sure that the music comes first and that we don't hear bowings and that we hear music. So can you just try the very first phrase again and see if we can try to take out some of the accents that were happening and see if we can make a little bit of a longer line. Just the first line. Yes. Good. Try to see your bowings there. Let's see what's happening here. So one thing. Be careful of, I would say really low in the bow and try to use much less sound and a little bit less volume so that those don't stick out. Try again. Now crescendo through this note. Right, and now the most. Right. And then here again, we don't want that B flat to come out, right? It's not as important as the E. So that just comes down to bow usage. So just be careful of that, especially on little notes, that we don't suddenly use the whole bow and then that sticks out in the texture. We want basically the fulcrum notes or kind of the grounding notes to come out, right? So. Okay, so, and then also one other little comment, here at the end, I see you have a fermata here. I'm not sure I necessarily agree, this is just personal taste, because I feel like all of these chords are really connected. So I feel like you can honor the fermata, but try not to do it with a huge break, but rather just extending the chord previously, and then be sure that you also honor the rhythm. It's very tempting to just be like, ya, 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 right? And like, yes, we're at the end, thank God. Okay, but be sure that we hold it all full 3 beats, because it's really epic if you can ta-ya, 2, 3, pa-wah. It just adds to like the gusto of it, okay? But really beautiful playing. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Really good stuff.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.